warned them. Betray me, and I will burn the whole empire down.
The moment I walked into the Travis Associates Christmas party, I knew I was walking into my own execution. The ballroom at the Riverside Manor was decked out in enough gold and red to make a Vegas casino jealous, and the entire company was there. All 43 employees, plus spouses, plus the extended Travis family dynasty that owned the place. My name is Max Harrow, and I'm the IT manager at this family-run marketing firm. More importantly, I'm married to Lydia Travis Harrow, daughter of the CEO. That should make me golden, right? Wrong. In this family, I'm about as welcome as a virus in their precious network. Max, there you are. My wife's voice cut through the holiday music like a knife through wrapping paper. Lydia appeared at my elbow, stunning in a red dress that probably cost more than my monthly salary. Come on, Dad's about to do the gift presentations. I followed her through the crowd, nodding at coworkers who gave me those tight, uncomfortable smiles people reserve for the walking dead. My buddy Brandon from the tech department raised his beer in a mock salute from across the room. At least someone found this amusing. Richard Rick Travis stood at the front of the room, microphone in hand, looking every inch the successful patriarch in his $1,000 suit. At 68, he still commanded attention like a general addressing troops. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our annual recognition ceremony. Rick's voice boomed through the speakers. As you know, this year has been exceptional for Travis Associates, and we have some very special acknowledgments to make. The crowd gathered closer. I spotted Jonas Maddox near the front, my former best friend who'd recently been promoted to sales director. He caught my eye and gave me a smirk that made my stomach turn. We used to grab beers every Friday after work, talking about everything from sports to our dreams of starting our own company someday. That felt like a lifetime ago. First up, my youngest daughter, Rachel. Rick beamed as Rachel Travis stepped forward, radiant in a gold cocktail dress. The golden child of the family, she'd always been the favorite, prettier than Lydia, more charming, more ambitious. At 31, she already ran the entire marketing department. Rachel has exceeded every sales target this quarter and brought in 3 major clients, including the Morrison account we've been chasing for 2 years. The crowd applauded enthusiastically. So, Rachel, this is for you. Rick gestured toward the ballroom entrance, where 2 men in suits wheeled in a massive red bow. But it wasn't sitting on a table. It was sitting on the hood of a gleaming silver BMW. The room erupted in gasps and applause. Rachel squealed with delight, actually jumping up and down like a teenager. Oh my God, Dad! Are you serious? Completely serious. You've earned it, sweetheart. Along with the new corner office on the 3rd floor and a 20% raise. I felt my jaw clench as I watched the spectacle. 20% raise. Corner office. A $65,000 car. For hitting sales targets that half the company had helped her achieve. But wait, there's more. Rick continued, clearly enjoying his role as the generous father. Rachel will also be heading our new West Coast expansion project with full autonomy and a team of 12. More applause, more squealing. I glanced at Lydia, who was clapping with tears in her eyes, proud of her baby sister. My wife had been working at the company for 8 years, had brought in plenty of clients herself, and the most recognition she'd ever gotten was a gift card to Olive Garden. Now, Rick continued, his tone shifting slightly, we also have some other recognitions to make. Jonas Maddox, come on up here. Jonas strutted forward with that cocky confidence that had once been endearing but now made me want to punch something. He'd always been the smooth talker, the guy who could sell ice to Eskimos, but lately his success had gone to his head. Jonas closed the Hartwell Industries deal last month, our biggest client acquisition in 5 years. That takes skill, dedication, and the kind of aggressive sales approach that defines Travis Associates. The crowd cheered. Jonas basked in it, straightening his tie with theatrical flair. So Jonas gets a little something special, too. Rick handed him an envelope. Inside, you'll find keys to the company condo in Miami, yours to use whenever you want, plus a bonus check that I think you'll find very generous. Jonas opened the envelope, and his eyes went wide. Holy crap! Holy cow, Mr. Travis! This is incredible. Thank you so much. You've earned it, son. You remind me of myself at your age. Hungry, determined, willing to do whatever it takes to get ahead. The way Rick said son made my skin crawl. He'd never called me son, not once in the 6 years I'd been married to his daughter. And now, Rick's voice took on a different tone entirely. We come to our final recognition of the evening. The room went quiet. I felt every eye turned toward me, and my stomach dropped into my shoes. Max Harrow, come on up here. The walk to the front of the room felt like a death march. My face burned as conversations stopped and people stared. Brandon looked concerned. Aunt Sharon, Rick's sister, who was already half drunk on champagne, was trying not to laugh. Max here has been with us for 6 years, Rick said into the microphone, his tone now completely flat. He's been adequate in his role as IT manager, kept our computers running, fixed the printer when it jammed, that sort of thing. Adequate. The word hit me like a slap. I'd redesigned their entire network infrastructure, saved them thousands in software licensing, prevented 3 major security breaches, and automated half their data processes. Adequate. So Max, this is for you. Rick reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out something small. He placed it in my palm. I looked down. It was a $2 bill. The room was dead silent for about 3 seconds, and then someone started laughing. Then someone else joined in. Within moments, half the room was chuckling, thinking this was some kind of elaborate joke. But wait, Rick said, clearly enjoying himself now. There's more. One of the catering staff brought over a gift bag. Rick reached inside and pulled out a t-shirt. He held it up for everyone to see. In bright yellow letters across a black shirt, it read, "World's Most Average Employee." The laughter got louder. Even Lydia was smiling, though she was trying to hide it behind her hand. Jonas was practically doubled over, slapping his knee like this was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. "Put it on, Max," someone called out from the back. "Speech!" "Speech," Jonas shouted, his voice carrying clearly over the crowd. I stood there holding a $2 bill and a joke t-shirt while 40-plus people laughed at me. My wife was laughing. My former best friend was laughing. My father-in-law was grinning like he'd just delivered the punchline of the century. "You know what?" I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Thanks, Rick. This is exactly what I expected from you." The laughter died down a bit. Rick's smile faltered. "I mean, this really captures the spirit of Travis and Associates perfectly. Take care of family first, screw everyone else, and make sure to publicly humiliate anyone who isn't part of the inner circle." "Max!" Lydia hissed, grabbing my arm. I shook her off. "No, this is perfect. Really. A $2 bill for 6 years of work. I'll treasure it forever." I stuffed the bill in my pocket and walked toward the exit, still carrying the t-shirt. The room was quiet now except for the soft jazz playing through the speakers. "Max, where are you going?" Lydia called after me. I turned back at the doorway. "Home. Enjoy the rest of your party." The cold December air hit me like a physical relief as I walked to my car. My hands were shaking as I fumbled with the keys, but whether from anger or humiliation, I couldn't tell. As I sat in my 10-year-old Honda Civic, watching the warm light spill out of the ballroom windows, my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from an unknown number. "Check your email, now." I opened my email app and there was a message from an anonymous account with no subject line. The message contained just 4 words, "Turn on the news." What the hell? I started my car and drove back toward the ballroom entrance, my curiosity overriding my desire to escape. Through the windows, I could see the party was back in full swing. Rick was at the bar, probably telling jokes about his brilliant gift presentation. I called the hotel's main number from my cell phone. "Riverside Manor, this is Jessica." "Hi, this is Max Harrow. I'm at the Travis Associates party in the Riverside Ballroom. Could you please turn on the TV in there?" "Tell them it's urgent. There's something on the news they need to see." "Sir, I'm not sure we can interrupt a private event. Trust me, they'll want to see this. Tell them Max sent you." Through the window, I watched a hotel employee enter the ballroom and approach Rick. I saw Rick's confused expression, then his shrug as he gestured toward the large flat-screen TV mounted on the wall. The employee picked up a remote and the screen flickered to life. I couldn't hear the audio from outside, but I didn't need to. The image on the screen was crystal clear. Security camera footage of the Travis Associates parking lot, dated 3 weeks ago. 2 figures were clearly visible in the back seat of a silver Mercedes, and even with the grainy quality of the footage, there was no mistaking who they were. Jonas Maddox and Lydia Travis Harrow, my wife, in a very compromising position. The entire ballroom went silent. I watched Rick's face turn purple with rage. Lydia went white as a sheet, her hand flying to her mouth. Jonas looked like he was about to throw up. Rachel was staring at her sister in shock. The other party guests were murmuring, pointing at the screen, pulling out their phones to record the drama. I sat in my car, watching the chaos unfold through the window, and for the first time in months, I smiled. "Showtime," I whispered to myself, and drove home. I was sitting in my kitchen drinking a beer and still wearing my suit from the party when Lydia burst through the front door at 11:47 p.m., Her face was flushed, her makeup smeared, and she looked like she'd been crying. "What did you do?" she demanded, not even bothering to take off her coat. "What the hell did you do, Max?" I took another sip of my beer and looked at her calmly. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't you dare lie to me! That footage, where did it come from? How did it end up on the news?" You know, that's a really good question, Lydia. How does security camera footage from our company parking lot end up being broadcast during your family's Christmas party? That's quite a coincidence, isn't it? She slammed her purse down on the counter. "This isn't a joke, Max. Do you have any idea what you've done? My father is furious. Rachel won't even look at me. And Jonas? Oh, how is Jonas doing?" I interrupted. "I imagine he's having quite an evening. Probably fielding some interesting phone calls from his wife right about now." Lydia stared at me, and I could see the wheels turning in her head. You knew about us." "Of course I knew. I've known for 4 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days, since August 15th to be exact." Her mouth fell open. 4 months? But you never said anything. You never... Never what? Never confronted you? Never made a scene? Never played the part of the betrayed husband? I stood up and walked to the refrigerator, pulling out another beer. Want to know why? She didn't answer, just stood there staring at me. Because I wanted to see how far you'd go. I wanted to see how deep the betrayal ran. And boy, did you deliver. I opened the beer and leaned against the counter, studying my wife's face. 6 years of marriage, and I was finally seeing her clearly for the first time. "Let me tell you what I know, Lydia. I know you started sleeping with Jonas on August 15th, after the Morrison Industries meeting. I know you've been using Conference Room C on Tuesdays and Thursdays when everyone else is at lunch. I know you told him you were going to leave me after the holidays. I know he promised you he'd leave Sandra and the kids." Her face was getting paler with each detail. "I know you've been using the company credit card to pay for hotel rooms at the Marriott downtown. Room 4 on 12, specifically. You seem to like that one. I know you bought him that expensive watch for his birthday and told me it was for your father. I know you've been deleting text messages, but did you know that our phone plan backs up all texts to the cloud? And that, as the IT manager, I have access to those backups?" "Max, please. I'm not finished." My voice was getting harder now. All the months of suppressed anger finally finding their way out. "I know you told him I was boring in bed. I know you told him I was holding you back from your potential. I know you told him you married me because your father thought I'd be useful to the company, not because you loved me." Tears were streaming down her face now, but I felt no sympathy. Not anymore. "But here's my favorite part, Lydia. I know that while you were screwing my best friend and planning to leave me, you were also encouraging me to apply for that promotion to Senior Systems Administrator. Remember that? You kept telling me I should go for it, that I deserved better recognition." She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. "I was trying to be supportive." "No, you were trying to get me out of the way. Because if I got promoted to senior admin, I'd be traveling to client sites 3 days a week. More opportunities for you and Jonas to play house." The silence stretched between us. Outside, I could hear the wind picking up, rattling the windows. "How?" she finally asked. "How did you find out?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want to know the funny part? It was completely by accident. I was doing routine maintenance on the email server and noticed some unusual activity on your account. Messages being sent and immediately deleted, accessing the system at odd hours. So I dug a little deeper. I walked to the kitchen drawer and pulled out a manila folder, thick with printed emails and text messages. August 15th, 2:47 p.m. Text from you to Jonas. "Can't stop thinking about what happened in your office. When can we do it again?" Her face crumpled. August 22nd, 4:15 p.m. Email from Jonas to you. "Booked our usual room for Thursday. Can't wait to get my hands on you again. Stop, please." September 3rd, 11:23 p.m. Text from you to Jonas. "Max is asleep. Wish you were here instead of him." I flipped through more pages, each one a knife twist. September 18th, 1:45 p.m. Email from you to Jonas. "I'm going to tell him after Christmas. We can finally be together for real." I closed the folder and looked at her. Should I go on? Because I've got about 200 more pages here. Lydia sank into one of the kitchen chairs, her head in her hands. "I never meant for it to happen this way." "Which part? The cheating or getting caught?" "I was going to tell you. After the holidays, I was going to explain everything." "Oh, you mean you were going to dump me after using me to get through another awkward family Christmas? How considerate." She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. You don't understand, Max. Things between us haven't been good for a long time. We barely talk anymore. We never do anything together. We're like roommates, not husband and wife. And whose fault is that exactly? Every time I suggested we go out, you were too busy. Every time I tried to plan something, you had work commitments. Every time I wanted to talk, you were too tired. Because I was trying to build a career. I was trying to prove myself at the company. No, you were trying to avoid dealing with our problems by throwing yourself into work. And when that wasn't enough, you threw yourself into Jonas. The kitchen fell silent again. I could hear the refrigerator humming, the clock on the wall ticking. What happens now? She asked, quietly. Now you get to live with the consequences of your choices. The whole company saw that footage tonight. Your father knows, your sister knows, everyone knows. Jonas's wife definitely knows by now. I made sure of that. Her head snapped up. What do you mean you made sure of that? I smiled. I mean, I sent Sandra Maddox a copy of all your text messages about 2 hours ago, along with some photos I pulled from the parking lot security footage. Much clearer images than what was on the news. You fool. I'm the fool? That's rich coming from someone who's been screwing around behind my back for 4 months. She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I'm going to Rachel's. No, you're not. Excuse me? I pulled my phone out of my pocket and showed her the screen. It was a text message from Rachel, sent 20 minutes ago. Don't even think about coming here. I can't look at you right now. Lydia stared at the message, then at me. How do you have Rachel's texts? Family phone plan, remember? Your father added me to it 3 years ago to save money. I'm the account administrator. The realization hit her like a physical blow. You've been reading all of our messages. All of us. Only when necessary, and tonight was very necessary. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. I'm going to a hotel. With what money? I canceled all the credit cards an hour ago. Joint accounts, remember? And I moved our savings into an account with just my name on it this afternoon. She spun around, fury replacing the tears. You can't do that. Actually, I can. I consulted with a lawyer 3 weeks ago. Since the savings account was funded entirely by my salary, your paychecks always went to your personal account. I have every legal right to protect those assets during marital difficulties. This is insane, Max. You're being completely unreasonable. Unreasonable? Let me tell you what's unreasonable, Lydia. Unreasonable is humiliating me at a company party with a $2 bill and a joke t-shirt while you're screwing around with my best friend. Unreasonable is planning to leave me while pretending to be a loving wife. Unreasonable is using company resources to fund your affair. I walked to the front door and opened it, letting in a blast of cold air. You want to leave? Go ahead. But you're walking out that door with exactly what you brought into this marriage. Nothing. She stood there for a long moment, clutching her purse, looking lost and defeated. I loved you once, she said quietly. No, you didn't. You loved the idea of me, the safe choice, the guy who wouldn't cause problems for your family or threaten your position at the company, but you never loved me. She walked to the door, then paused. What about Jonas? What about him? Are you going to destroy his life too? I considered the question. Jonas destroyed his own life the moment he decided to betray our friendship. I'm just making sure everyone knows what kind of man he really is. She nodded slowly, then walked out into the night. I watched her get into her car, a car that was also in my name, I realized, and drive away. I closed the door, locked it, and went back to the kitchen to finish my beer. On the counter, my phone was buzzing with text messages. Brandon from work, some other colleagues, even a few people from other companies who'd heard about the drama. But the message that made me smile was from an unknown number. Saw the news. That was beautiful. Can't wait to see what you do next. I deleted the message and turned off my phone. Tomorrow was going to be a very interesting day at Travis Associates. The next morning, I arrived at the office early, 6:30 a.m., a full 2 hours before anyone else typically showed up. The building was quiet, just the hum of computers and the distant sound of the cleaning crew finishing their work. I had a lot to accomplish before the regular workday began. My first stop was Jonas's office. As sales director, he had a corner office on the second floor with a nice view of the parking lot, the same parking lot where he and my wife had their little rendezvous. The irony wasn't lost on me. I used my master key card to get in. One of the perks of being IT manager was having access to everything in the building. Jonas's office was exactly what you'd expect from someone trying too hard to project success. expensive leather furniture, motivational posters, a putting green in the corner, and a wall covered with sales awards and photos of himself with various clients. I sat down at his computer and logged in using the admin credentials I'd set up on all company machines. Jonas, like most people, had no idea that everything he did on his work computer was accessible to me. What I found in his files was even better than I'd hoped. Jonas had been padding his expense reports for months. Dinners that cost $50 were billed as $150 client meetings. Personal gas purchases were labeled as business travel. He'd even charged the company for a weekend trip to Atlantic City, claiming it was a team-building exercise when he'd actually gone alone. But the real goldmine was in his email drafts folder. Jonas had been corresponding with competitors, sharing client information and pricing strategies. Not quite corporate espionage, but definitely a violation of his employment contract and possibly illegal. I copied everything to a flash drive, then sent anonymous tips to the State Attorney General's office and the Better Business Bureau. I also forwarded the evidence to Rick Travis's personal email, along with a note. Thought you should know what kind of son you've been promoting. Next stop, Rachel's new corner office. Rachel's computer was a treasure trove of family secrets and questionable business practices. As the golden child, she'd been given access to accounts and information that should have required board approval. She'd been using company funds to pay for personal expenses, spa treatments, shopping trips, even her gym membership. More interesting was her correspondence with several board members, discussing plans to force out deadweight employees and bring in fresh talent, code for firing anyone over 50 and hiring recent college graduates at half the salary. There was also a series of emails between Rachel and a headhunter, discussing opportunities at competing firms. Apparently, the golden child was planning to jump ship once she'd built up enough experience, taking client lists and proprietary information with her. I documented everything, then crafted a carefully worded email to the entire board of directors, outlining Rachel's activities and attaching supporting evidence. I scheduled it to be sent at 9 a.m., right when the board typically held their morning coffee meeting. But I wasn't done with Rachel yet. I accessed the building's security system and pulled up footage from the past 3 months. What I found was Rachel using her key card to access the building after hours, often bringing friends for parties in the conference rooms. Company alcohol, company facilities, company liability, all for personal entertainment. The best footage showed Rachel and 2 friends doing lines of white powder off the conference room table at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. I saved that video to a separate drive. My phone buzzed with a text from Brandon. "Dude, where are you? Heard about last night? You okay?" I texted back, "In early. Meet me in the server room at 8. Brandon was the one person at the company I trusted completely. He'd started as a junior technician 5 years ago and worked his way up to senior network administrator. More importantly, he was loyal, discreet, and had no love for the Travis family politics. At 8 a.m. sharp, Brandon knocked on the server room door. He looked tired, probably stayed up late hearing about the party drama through the office gossip network. "Man, what the hell happened last night?" he asked, closing the door behind him. "I heard there was security footage of Lydia and Jonas and that Rick went ballistic, and that you somehow orchestrated the whole thing." "Something like that," I said, not looking up from the computer terminal I was working on. "How much do you know about the company's financial systems?" "Enough to know they're a mess. Why?" I turned the monitor so he could see what I'd been working on. "Because I've been doing some digging, and this place is a house of cards." The screen showed a complex spreadsheet tracking money flows between different company accounts. "Look at this. Rachel's been moving money between departments to hide her personal expenses. Jonas has been double billing clients and pocketing the difference. Even Lydia's been using the company credit card for personal purchases." Brandon whistled low. "How long has this been going on? Months, maybe years? And Rick either doesn't know or doesn't care, as long as the family keeps getting their bonuses." "What are you going to do with this?" I leaned back in my chair and looked at my friend. "I'm going to burn it all down, Brandon. But I need your help." "What kind of help?" "The kind that might get us both fired if we're caught." Brandon was quiet for a moment, considering. Then he grinned. "You know what? Screw it. After what they did to you last night, they deserve whatever's coming. What do you need?" I handed him a flash drive. "I need you to make copies of everything on here and store them in 3 different locations. If something happens to me, I want you to send copies to the IRS, the State Attorney General, and the local newspaper." "Jesus, Max, this is serious." "Dead serious. These people have been treating this company like their personal piggy bank. while regular employees get $2 bills for Christmas bonuses. Brandon pocketed the flash drive. What else? I need you to help me set up a few surprises for Jonas and Rachel. Nothing illegal, just some poetic justice. I'm listening. I pulled up the building's security system on another monitor. Jonas parks in the same spot every day, right next to the main entrance. Reserved parking, naturally. Yeah, spot number 3, right next to Rick's. Tonight, after everyone goes home, we're going to pay his car a little visit. Brandon's grin got wider. What did you have in mind? Nothing that will cause permanent damage, but I think Jonas needs to understand that actions have consequences. We spent the next hour planning. By the time other employees started arriving, we had everything mapped out. At 9 a.m., I was back at my desk, pretending to work on routine maintenance tasks, when the first explosion happened. Rachel's scream could be heard from 3 floors away. I walked to the break room where several employees were gathered around the coffee machine, all talking at once. Did you hear that? Sarah from accounting was saying. That sounded like Rachel. I heard she got called into an emergency board meeting, Tom from marketing added. Something about financial irregularities. Through the break room window, I could see Rachel's office. The blinds were closed, but I could make out several figures inside. Rachel, Rick, and at least 3 board members. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Phase 1 complete. She's finished. I deleted the message and went back to my desk. 20 minutes later, Jonas came storming into the IT department, his face red with anger. Max, I need to talk to you. Now. I looked up from my computer with an expression of mild surprise. Sure, Jonas, what's up? Don't play dumb with me. I know you're behind what happened last night. Behind what? The Christmas party? I don't think I had much to do with the planning. The footage, you son of a witch. The security camera footage that somehow ended up on the news. Several other IT staff members were watching now, pretending to work while obviously listening to every word. I'm sorry, Jonas, but I have no idea what you're talking about. Are you saying there was some kind of security breach? Because if so, I should probably investigate that immediately. His hands were clenched into fists. For a moment, I thought he might actually take a swing at me. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you think this is over, you're dead wrong. Is that a threat, Jonas? It's a promise. He turned and walked away, but not before I caught him glancing at the security camera mounted in the corner of the room. What he didn't know was that all the security footage was automatically backed up to servers that only I had access to. At lunchtime, I drove to the parking garage downtown where Jonas kept his BMW. He'd bought it 6 months ago. A cherry red convertible that he was constantly bragging about, his pride and joy. I had a spare key made weeks ago, back when I was still gathering evidence. Jonas had a habit of leaving his keys on his desk when he went to meetings, and it only took 5 minutes to get a copy made at the hardware store across the street. The car was parked on the 3rd level, in a spot that wasn't visible from the street or the garage entrance. Perfect. I opened the hood and disconnected the battery cable, then loosened the alternator belt. The car would start, but it would die after a few minutes of driving. Nothing permanent, nothing that couldn't be fixed, but enough to cause significant inconvenience. Next, I let the air out of the rear tires. Not enough to be obvious from a distance, but enough that they'd be flat by the time he tried to drive home. Finally, I took a can of washable paint and wrote "Cheater" across the windshield in bright yellow letters. It would come off with soap and water, but not without effort. I was back at the office by 1 p.m., well before Jonas returned from his lunch meeting. The afternoon brought more fireworks. Rachel was escorted out of the building by security at 2:30 p.m., carrying a cardboard box with her personal belongings. She was crying, and Rick looked like he'd aged 10 years since the morning. Word spread through the office like wildfire. Rachel had been terminated for misuse of company funds and violation of her employment contract. The board had voted unanimously to fire her and were considering legal action to recover the money she'd stolen. At 4:45 p.m., Jonas discovered his car. I was in the break room when I heard him shouting in the parking garage. Through the window, I could see him standing next to his BMW, talking frantically on his phone, probably calling a tow truck. My phone buzzed with a text from Brandon. Phase 2 complete. This is better than cable TV. At 5 p.m., I packed up my things and headed home. Tomorrow was going to be even more interesting. As I walked to my car, I passed Jonas waiting next to his disabled BMW. He glared at me with pure hatred. Having car trouble? I asked innocently. You're going to pay for this, Max. Whatever game you're playing, it ends now. I'm not playing any games, Jonas. I'm just going home to my wife. I paused. Oh, wait, that's right. My wife is probably at a hotel somewhere, crying about how her affair got exposed on live television. My mistake. I got in my car and drove away, leaving him standing there in the cold. The war was just getting started. The next morning, I arrived at work to find Jonas waiting for me in the parking garage. He was leaning against a rental car, a basic economy model that was a far cry from his beloved BMW, and he looked like he hadn't slept. "We need to talk," he said as I got out of my Honda. "Good morning to you too, Jonas. How's the car situation working out?" His jaw tightened. "Cut the crap, Max. I know what you're doing, and it stops now." I locked my car and started walking toward the elevator. "I'm going to work, same as always. What are you doing?" He followed me, his footsteps echoing in the concrete garage. "I'm trying to figure out why my best friend has lost his mind." I stopped walking and turned to face him. "Your best friend? Is that what you think you are?" "We've been friends for 8 years, Max. We've been through everything together. Everything except my wife, apparently. Oh, wait, you went through her too." His face flushed red. "That's not how it happened." "Really? Then how did it happen, Jonas?" "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you decided to screw my wife behind my back while pretending to be my friend. It wasn't planned, okay? It just happened. Lydia and I, we connected. We have things in common. We understand each other." "You understand each other? What exactly do you understand about a married woman, Jonas? What exactly does she understand about a man who's willing to betray his best friend?" We were standing by the elevator now, and I could see other employees arriving for work, parking their cars and walking past us. Some of them were staring, obviously sensing the tension. "Look, I know this is complicated," Jonas said, lowering his voice. "But what's between Lydia and me, that's real. What she has with you, Max, be honest. When was the last time you two were actually happy together?" The elevator arrived and we got in, alone. As soon as the doors closed, the pretense of civility dropped. "So this is my fault?" I asked. "My marriage falling apart is my fault?" "I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm saying it was already falling apart before I came along." Lydia was miserable, Max. She felt trapped, unappreciated, ignored. And you were just the hero who rescued her from her terrible life? I was someone who actually listened to her, someone who made her feel valued and desired, and I hit the emergency stop button. The elevator jerked to a halt between the second and third floors. Let me tell you what you really were, Jonas. You were a predator who saw an opportunity and took it. You saw a woman who was having problems in her marriage, and instead of encouraging her to work on those problems, you exploited them for your own benefit. That's not true, isn't it? Did you ever once suggest that Lydia talk to me about our issues? Did you ever once recommend marriage counseling? Did you ever once do anything that might have helped save our marriage? He was quiet, staring at the elevator buttons. Of course not, because that wouldn't have gotten you what you wanted. What you wanted was to feel important, to feel like you won something. And my wife was the prize. You don't understand what it's like between us. I understand perfectly. I've read all your text messages, remember? All those sweet little notes about how you can't wait to get your hands on her again and how you're going to make her forget all about her boring husband. Jonas looked genuinely surprised. You read our private messages? Every single one. Did you really think you could have an affair using company phones and company email without the IT manager finding out? How stupid are you? I restarted the elevator and we rode the rest of the way in silence. When the doors opened on the third floor, Jonas grabbed my arm. This isn't over, Max. I looked down at his hand on my arm, then back at his face. Take your hand off me. Or what? Or I'll file attack charges and add them to the growing list of reasons why you're about to lose your job. He let go, but didn't back down. You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you've got everything figured out. But you have no idea what's really going on here. Enlighten me. This company, this family, they don't give a damn about you, Max. You're not one of them. You never were, and you never will be. Lydia knows it, Rick knows it, everyone knows it except you. And that makes it okay to betray me? It makes it realistic. Lydia deserves better than being stuck in a dead-end marriage with someone who's never going to amount to anything. That hit harder than I expected, and Jonas saw it in my face. You want to know the truth, Max? Lydia was planning to leave you anyway. I just gave her a reason to do it sooner rather than later. The elevator doors started to close, but I stuck my foot out to stop them. You know what, Jonas? You're absolutely right. I'm not part of this family, and I never will be. But here's the thing. Neither are you. You think sleeping with the boss's daughter makes you special? You think Rick Travis sees you as anything more than a useful employee? He promoted me to sales director. He promoted you because you make money for the company. The moment you stop being profitable, you'll be gone. And guess what? That moment is coming sooner than you think. I stepped back and let the elevator doors close, leaving Jonas standing there with a confused expression on his face. The rest of the morning was relatively quiet, but I could feel the tension building. Word had spread about Rachel's firing, and everyone was walking on eggshells, wondering who might be next. At 11:30 a.m., I got a call from Rick Travis's assistant, asking me to come to his office immediately. Rick's office was on the 4th floor, a massive space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He was sitting behind his desk when I walked in, looking every bit the angry patriarch. "Sit down, Max." I took a seat in one of the leather chairs facing his desk. "What can I do for you, Rick?" "You can start by telling me what the hell you think you're doing." "I'm not sure what you mean." "Don't play games with me, son. I know you're behind the security footage that got broadcast at the party. I know you're behind the information that got Rachel fired. And I'm pretty sure you're behind whatever happened to Jonas's car yesterday." I kept my expression neutral. "That's quite an accusation. Do you have any proof?" "I don't need proof. I know." "Well, if you know, then I guess we don't need to discuss it further." Rick leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Let me make something very clear to you, Max. This is my company, this is my family, and I will not tolerate anyone trying to destroy what I've built." "I'm not trying to destroy anything, Rick. I'm just making sure that everyone knows the truth about what's been going on around here." "The truth?" "The truth is that you're a bitter, vindictive man who can't handle the fact that his wife found someone better." That stung, but I didn't let it show. "Is that what you think happened? Lydia just happened to find someone better? I think you've been a disappointment as a husband and as an employee, and instead of trying to improve yourself, you're lashing out at everyone around you." "A disappointment as an employee? Is that why you gave me a $2 bill and a joke t-shirt at the Christmas party? Because I've been such a disappointment?" Rick's face hardened. "That was meant to be funny." "Funny to who? Because I didn't see anyone laughing with me, Rick. I saw everyone laughing at me, including your daughter. Maybe if you'd actually accomplished something worth recognizing." "Like what? Like redesigning your entire network infrastructure? Like saving the company $50,000 a year in software licensing? Like preventing 3 major security breaches that could have cost you millions? Anyone could have done those things. Then why didn't they? Why did you have to hire me to do them?" Rick stood up and walked to the window, his back to me. "This conversation is over, Max. I want you to clean out your desk and leave. You're fired." "On what grounds?" "Insubordination. Violation of company policies. Take your pick." I stood up as well. "You know what, Rick? You're right. This conversation is over. But I'm not fired." "Excuse me?" "Check your employment contracts more carefully. As AITA manager, I have access to sensitive financial and personal information. Terminating me without cause requires a 6-month notice period and severance pay equal to 2 years' salary. Unless, of course, you can prove I've actually violated company policy." Rick turned around, his face purple with rage. "You son of a witch! I learned from the best. Your family has been playing these games for years." I just decided to start playing back. I walked to the door, then paused. "Oh, and Rick, you might want to have a conversation with your accountant. I think you're going to find some interesting discrepancies in your books over the next few days." I left him standing there, staring after me with a mixture of rage and fear. The afternoon brought the confrontation I'd been expecting. At 4 p.m., Jonas cornered me in the parking garage again, but this time he wasn't alone. He'd brought 2 guys from the sales department, Mike and Steve, both former college football players, who'd been hired more for their intimidation factor than their sales skills. "We need to have that talk now," Jonas said, positioning himself between me and the elevator. "This is harassment, Jonas. There are security cameras everywhere." "Funny thing about security cameras," Mike said, stepping closer. "Sometimes they malfunction." I looked around and realized they were right. The camera nearest to us had been turned to face the wall, and the one by the elevator had a piece of tape over the lens. "What do you want?" I asked. "I want you to stop," Jonas said. "Whatever you're doing, whatever you're planning, it ends now. Lydia doesn't want to see you anymore. She doesn't want to talk to you, and she sure as hell doesn't want to be married to you." "Is that what she told you?" "That's what she told everyone. She's filing for divorce, Max. It's over." "Good. That'll make things simpler." Jonas looked confused. "Simpler how?" Simpler because I won't have to worry about protecting her when everything comes out. When what comes out? I smiled. You'll find out soon enough. Steve grabbed my arm. Maybe you didn't hear him, pal. He said it's over. I looked down at Steve's hand, then back at his face. Take your hand off me. Or what? Or I'll make sure everyone knows about your little white powder habit. Steve's grip loosened. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the pill tests that are going to be implemented next week. Random testing for all employees, starting with the sales department. Should be interesting to see who passes and who doesn't. Mike stepped forward. You're bluffing. Am I? Jonas, why don't you ask Rachel about the security footage from conference room B? The footage from last Tuesday night around 2 a.m.? Jonas's face went white. What footage? The footage of Rachel and her friends doing lines of white powder off the conference table. The same conference table where you hold your sales meetings every Monday morning. That's impossible. Is it? Because I'm pretty sure Rachel's going to be very cooperative with the police when they start asking questions about where she got the pills. Especially if it means reducing her own charges. The three men looked at each other uncertainly. You're lying, Jonas said, but his voice lacked conviction. Maybe I am. Or maybe you should ask yourself why Rachel really got fired yesterday. Was it just the embezzlement or was there something else? I pushed past Steve and walked toward the elevator. Gentlemen, this has been fun, but I have work to do. As the elevator doors closed, I could hear them arguing among themselves, their voices echoing in the concrete garage. My phone buzzed with a text message. Impressive, but the real show starts tomorrow. I deleted the message and smiled. Tomorrow was going to be very interesting indeed. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Something big was happening. The first call was from Brandon. Dude, you need to see the news. Turn on Channel 7 now. I grabbed the remote and flipped to the local morning show. The anchor was in the middle of a story about corporate corruption at a prominent local marketing firm. They weren't naming Travis Veit's associates directly, but the details were unmistakable. Sources close to the investigation tell us that several high-level employees have been terminated for embezzlement, fraud, and violation of employment contracts. The State Attorney General's office has confirmed they are reviewing evidence of potential criminal activity. My phone rang. It was an unknown number, but I answered it anyway. Max, this is Jennifer Walsh from Channel 7 News. We'd like to interview you about the situation at Travis's associates. I'm sorry, but I don't have any comment at this time. We understand you're the IT manager who discovered the financial irregularities. Our sources say you have documentation that could be crucial to the investigation. I hung up and immediately called Brandon. What the hell is going on? I asked. Someone leaked everything to the media, Brandon said. The financial records, the security footage, the emails, everything. It's all over the news. Who leaked it? I don't know, but whoever it was, they had access to files that only you and I knew about. I felt a chill run down my spine. Brandon, where are you right now? At home. I called in sick. Figured it was safer to stay away from the office today. Good call. Listen to me carefully. Destroy everything. All the backup files, all the copies, everything. Do it now. Max, what's going on? You're scaring me. Just do it, Brandon. And don't go to the office today. Don't go anywhere near that building. I hung up and started getting dressed. I needed to get to the office and figure out what was happening. The parking lot at Travis Associates was chaos. News vans, police cars, and what looked like federal agents were everywhere. The main entrance was blocked off with yellow tape, and employees were being turned away at the gate. I parked across the street and watched the circus unfold. Through the windows of the building, I could see people in suits carrying boxes of files and computer equipment. The entire company was being searched. My phone rang again. This time it was Lydia. Max, what did you do? Her voice was panicked, desperate. I didn't do anything, Lydia. Where are you? I'm at a hotel downtown. The FBI came to Rachel's apartment this morning with a search warrant. They're looking for financial records, computer files, anything related to the company. The FBI? They said someone provided evidence of a criminal conspiracy involving money laundering and tax evasion. Max, they think Rachel and Jonas were running some kind of scheme through the company. I sat in my car, watching the investigators carry boxes out of the building, and tried to process what was happening. This was bigger than I'd planned. Much bigger. Lydia, I need you to listen to me carefully. Don't talk to anyone without a lawyer present. Don't answer any questions. Don't sign anything. Max, did you do this? Did you call the FBI? No, I didn't call the FBI, but someone did, and they had access to information that could only have come from inside the company. Oh God, they're going to think I was involved. They're going to think I knew what Rachel and Jonas were doing. Did you know? No. I mean, I knew Rachel was spending a lot of money and Jonas always seemed to have cash, but I thought it was just family money or sales bonuses or something legitimate. Through the phone, I could hear her crying. Lydia, where exactly are you right now? The Marriott downtown, room 412? Room 412, the same room she'd been using for her affair with Jonas. The irony was almost too much. Stay there. Don't leave. Don't talk to anyone. I'm coming over. Max, why would you help me? After everything that's happened, why would you? Because despite everything, I don't want to see you go to prison for something you didn't do. I hung up and drove toward downtown, my mind racing. Someone had taken the evidence I'd gathered and used it to trigger a federal investigation. But who and why? The Marriott was swarming with reporters and federal agents. Apparently, word had gotten out that several Travis Associates employees were staying there. I parked in the garage and took the service elevator to the 4th floor. Lydia answered the door on the first knock. She looked terrible. No makeup, hair disheveled, wearing the same clothes from yesterday. She'd been crying for hours. Max, thank God you're here. I don't know what to do. They froze all my accounts. They took my car. They even took my jewelry. They said it might be evidence of money laundering. I looked around the hotel room. It was the same room where she'd been meeting Jonas for months. The bed where she'd betrayed our marriage. The bathroom where she'd gotten ready to go home to me afterward. Tell me exactly what happened, I said, sitting in the chair by the window. I was at Rachel's apartment this morning when the FBI showed up. They had a search warrant for her place, and they started asking me questions about the company finances, about my relationship with Jonas, about whether I knew anything about offshore accounts or cash payments. Offshore accounts? That's what they said. They think Rachel and Jonas were moving money through fake client accounts, skimming profits, and hiding the money overseas. Max, they're talking about millions of dollars. I felt like the room was spinning. Millions? The FBI agent said they have evidence of systematic fraud going back at least 2 years. They think Rachel was creating fake invoices for non-existent clients, and Jonas was processing the payments through his sales accounts. And they think you were involved? They think I might have been involved because I'm Rachel's sister and Jonas is because of my relationship with Jonas. They said I had access to financial information through my job in the HR department. I stood up and walked to the window. 4 floors below, I could see news crews setting up for live broadcasts. The Travis Associates scandal was becoming the biggest story in the city. Lydia, I need you to think carefully. Did you ever see Rachel or Jonas with large amounts of cash? Did they ever ask you to sign documents or access files that seemed unusual? I don't think so. I mean, Rachel always had money, but I thought that was normal. And Jonas, he was always buying expensive things, but he was successful in sales. She trailed off, and I could see the realization dawning on her face. Oh my God, Max. The watch I bought him for his birthday. It cost $3,000, and I paid for it with cash that Rachel gave me. She said it was a family gift that she wanted to contribute, but didn't want Jonas to know it was from her. What else? The hotel rooms. Jonas always paid for them in cash, and he always had hundreds of dollars in his wallet. I thought he was just being generous, but he was paying for your affair with stolen money. She sat down heavily on the bed, her head in her hands. I'm going to prison, aren't I? Before I could answer, there was a loud knock on the door. FBI, open up. Lydia looked at me with pure terror in her eyes. What do I do? You open the door and you tell them the truth. All of it. The next few hours were a blur of questions, lawyers, and legal procedures. Lydia was taken in for questioning, but not arrested. The FBI seemed to believe that she was a victim of manipulation rather than an active participant in the fraud. Jonas wasn't so lucky. He was arrested at his apartment and charged with wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Bank records, email communications, and testimony from clients who confirmed that they'd never received the services they'd been billed for. Rachel was arrested at the airport, trying to board a flight to Switzerland with a suitcase full of cash and a fake passport. Apparently, she'd been planning her escape for weeks. But the biggest shock came that evening, when I was finally allowed to return to the office to collect my personal belongings. Rick Travis was sitting in his office, staring out the window at the news crews still camped in the parking lot. He looked like he'd aged 20 years in a single day. Max, he said when I knocked on his door. Come in. I sat down across from his desk, the same chair I'd sat in just 2 days earlier when he'd tried to fire me. I suppose you're feeling pretty satisfied right now. he said without looking at me. Actually, no, I never wanted it to go this far. Didn't you? You gathered all that evidence, you documented all their activities, you set everything in motion. I wanted them to face consequences for what they did. I wanted justice. I didn't want to see the entire company destroyed. Rick finally turned to look at me. The company's finished, Max. The clients are fleeing, the employees are looking for new jobs, the board is talking about liquidation. 40 years of work, gone. I'm sorry, Rick, I really am. Are you? Or are you just sorry that your revenge turned out bigger than you planned? I thought about that question for a long moment. Both, I guess. Rick nodded slowly. You know what the funny thing is? Rachel wasn't just stealing from the company. She was stealing from the family, too. My personal accounts, Lydia's trust fund, even her mother's life insurance money. She took everything. I didn't know. Of course you didn't, because this was never really about justice, was it, Max? This was about humiliation. You wanted to hurt the people who hurt you, and you didn't care who else got caught in the crossfire. He was right, and we both knew it. What happens now? I asked. Now? Now I try to figure out how to rebuild my life at 68 years old. Now I try to explain to my wife how our daughter stole our retirement savings. Now I try to live with the fact that my family's name is synonymous with fraud and corruption. I stood up to leave, but Rick's voice stopped me. Max? That anonymous tip to the FBI, that was you, wasn't it? I turned back to face him. No, Rick, it wasn't. Then who? I honestly don't know, but whoever it was, they had access to information that only a few people knew about. As I walked out of the office for the last time, I wondered about that myself. Who had taken my evidence and turned it into a federal case? Who had access to files that even I didn't know existed? The answer came to me as I was driving home, listening to the news coverage on the radio. The reporter was interviewing someone identified as a former Travis & Associates employee who wishes to remain anonymous. The voice was familiar, but it took me a moment to place it. It was Brandon, my loyal friend Brandon, who I'd trusted with copies of all the evidence. Brandon, who had access to the same systems I did. Brandon, who had been quietly documenting the company's illegal activities for months, waiting for the right moment to bring it all down. I pulled over and called him. You son of a witch, I said when he answered. Hey, Max, saw the news. Crazy day, huh? It was you. You're the one who leaked everything to the FBI. I don't know what you're talking about. Brandon, I know it was you. The question is why? There was a long pause. Then Brandon sighed. Because you weren't going far enough, Max. You were playing games, getting your little revenge, but you weren't actually stopping them. Rachel and Jonas weren't just cheating on their spouses and padding their expense accounts. They were stealing millions of dollars, and they were going to get away with it. So you decided to destroy the entire company? I decided to make sure justice was actually served. You wanted to humiliate them, Max. I wanted to stop them. I sat in my car, listening to the traffic go by, trying to process everything that had happened. What about all the innocent people who lost their jobs? What about the employees who had nothing to do with any of this? What about all the innocent people who would have been hurt if Rachel and Jonas had continued stealing? What about the clients who were being defrauded? What about the taxpayers who were being cheated? He was right, and I hated him for it. You used me, I said. Yeah, I did. Just like you used me. The difference is, I was trying to do the right thing. I hung up and drove home to my empty house, where I sat in my kitchen drinking beer and watching the news coverage of the Travis Associates scandal. On the screen, I watched Jonas being led away in handcuffs. I watched Rachel shouting at reporters from the back of a police car. I watched Rick Travis giving a statement about how shocked and disappointed he was to learn about the criminal activities in his company. And I realized that I'd gotten exactly what I'd wanted. My wife's lover was going to prison. Her sister was facing decades behind bars. Her father's company was destroyed, his reputation ruined. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like standing in the wreckage of a bomb I'd helped build, wondering why I'd ever thought destruction would make me feel better. The revenge was complete, but the satisfaction I'd expected never came. Instead, all I felt was empty. 3 months later, I was sitting in Murphy's Bar on 5th Street, the same place where this whole mess had started to unravel. It was a Tuesday night. Quiet, except for the usual regulars and the sound of the basketball game on the TV above the bar. Brandon walked in at exactly 8 p.m., just like we'd arranged. He looked different, cleaner, more professional. Word was he'd gotten a job with the FBI's cybercrime division, helping them investigate corporate fraud cases. Max, he said, sliding into the booth across from me. Brandon. We sat in silence for a moment, two former friends who'd been through a war together and come out on opposite sides. How's the new job? I asked finally. Good. Challenging. Feels like I'm actually making a difference. And how's your conscience? Brandon smiled, but there was no humor in it. Clean. How's yours? I took a sip of my beer and considered the question. Complicated. Any word from Lydia? The divorce was finalized last week. She moved to California, got a job with some tech startup. Turns out she's actually pretty good at marketing when she's not distracted by family drama. And Jonas? 15 years in federal prison. Rachel got 25. Rick had a heart attack 2 months ago. He's okay, but he looks like a broken man. Brandon nodded. What about you? What are you doing now? Consulting work. IT security for small businesses. Turns out there's a lot of demand for someone who knows how to catch corporate fraud. Ironic. Yeah, well, life's full of surprises. We drank in silence for a while, watching the game. The Celtics were losing by 20 points, which seemed appropriate somehow. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd handled things differently? Brandon asked. Every day. But then I remember that Rachel and Jonas were stealing millions of dollars, and they would have kept stealing if we hadn't stopped them. And Lydia? Lydia made her choices. She chose to have an affair. She chose to lie to me. She chose to be part of a family that treated people like disposable assets. I didn't force her to do any of that. But you did force her to face the consequences. Yeah, I did. And I'm not sorry about that part. Brandon finished his beer and stood up. I should go. Early meeting tomorrow. Brandon? He paused, looking back at me. Why didn't you just come to me? Why didn't you tell me what you were planning? Because you would have tried to stop me. You wanted revenge, Max, but you didn't want justice. You wanted to hurt the people who hurt you, but you didn't want to actually solve the problem. And now the problem is solved. Jonas and Rachel are in prison where they belong. The stolen money is being returned to the clients who were defrauded. The company is gone, but the employees found other jobs, most of them better jobs. And Rick? Rick enabled everything that happened. He created a culture where his family could do whatever they wanted without consequences. Maybe losing everything will teach him something. Brandon walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. For what it's worth, Max, I think you're a good man who got pushed too far. But sometimes good men have to make hard choices. And sometimes good men have to live with the consequences of those choices. Yeah, sometimes they do. After he left, I sat alone in the booth, finishing my beer and thinking about everything that had happened. The bartender, an older guy named Murphy, who'd owned the place for 30 years, came over to check on me. You okay, son? You look like you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders. Just thinking about the past, Murphy. Wondering if I could have done things differently. We all got regrets, son. Question is, what are you going to do about them? What do you mean? I mean, you can sit here feeling sorry for yourself, or you can figure out how to move forward. Past is past. Future is what matters now. He was right, of course. The past was gone. The marriage, the friendship, the company, all of it. The question was, what came next? My phone buzzed with a text message. It was from an unknown number, but the message made me smile. Saw the news about your consulting business. Congratulations. If you're ever in California, look me up. L. Lydia. After 3 months of silence, she was reaching out. Not to apologize, not to ask for forgiveness, just to acknowledge that we'd both survived the wreckage of our old lives and were building something new. I typed back, thanks. Good luck with the new job. It wasn't much, but it was something. A small recognition that we'd both been victims and perpetrators, that we'd both made mistakes and were both trying to move forward. I paid my tab and walked out into the cool spring night. The city looked different now, cleaner, somehow, full of possibilities instead of threats. As I drove home, I thought about Brandon's words. Good men making hard choices, living with consequences. He was right about the consequences. I'd lost my marriage, my best friend, my job, and my faith in the people I'd trusted most. But I'd also gained something. The knowledge that I wasn't as weak as I'd thought. That I could fight back when pushed too far. That I could survive the destruction of everything I'd built and start over. The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway. It was too big for one person, and I'd been thinking about selling it, maybe moving somewhere new. Starting fresh in a place where nobody knew about the Travis's Associates scandal or the IT manager who'd helped bring down a family dynasty. But as I sat in my car looking at the house where Lydia and I had lived for 6 years, I realized I wasn't ready to run away. This was my home, my life, my city. I'd survived the worst that could happen, and I was still here. Inside, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat in my living room, looking through the photo albums that Lydia had left behind. Pictures of our wedding, our honeymoon, family gatherings, Christmas parties from better years. In one photo, taken at last year's company picnic, Lydia and I were standing with Jonas and his wife Sandra, all of us smiling and laughing. It seemed like a lifetime ago, back when I'd trusted my wife, back when Jonas was my best friend, back when I'd believed that good people were rewarded and bad people faced consequences. Now I knew better. Good people and bad people were more complicated than I'd thought. Jonas had betrayed me, but he'd also been a loyal friend for 8 years before that. Lydia had cheated on me, but she'd also been a loving wife for most of our marriage. Rachel had stolen millions, but she'd also worked hard to build her career. People weren't heroes or villains. They were just people, making choices and living with the results. I closed the photo album and went to my computer, where I'd been working on a project for the past month. It was a detailed report about corporate fraud prevention, based on everything I'd learned during the Travis Ace Associates investigation. The report included case studies, prevention strategies, and recommendations for small businesses that wanted to protect themselves from internal theft. It was good work, maybe the best work I'd ever done, and several companies had already expressed interest in implementing my recommendations. It felt good to be building something instead of tearing something down. My phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but I answered anyway. Max Harrow? Yes. This is Detective Sarah Chen with the Boston Police Department. We're investigating a corporate fraud case, and we understand you have experience with this type of crime. Would you be available to consult on the investigation? What kind of case? A family-owned restaurant chain. The owners suspect that their CFO has been embezzling money, but they need someone with technical expertise to analyze their financial systems. I'd be happy to help. When do you need me? Tomorrow morning, if possible. And Mr. Harrow? We've heard good things about your work on the Travis case. We're looking forward to working with you. After I hung up, I sat back in my chair and smiled. A new case, a new challenge, a new opportunity to use what I'd learned for something positive. The past was over. Lydia was building a new life in California. Jonas and Rachel were serving their sentences. Rick was trying to rebuild his reputation. Brandon was fighting cybercrime for the FBI. And I was here, in my house, in my city, ready to help other people avoid the mistakes that had destroyed my marriage and my former life. It wasn't the ending I'd expected when I'd started down the path of revenge, but it was an ending I could live with. Outside, it started to rain, a gentle spring shower that would wash the winter grime off the streets and make room for new growth. I opened the window to let in the fresh air and the sound of water running in the gutters. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chances to make better choices than the ones that had led me here. Tonight, for the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't expected to feel again. Hope. The company holiday was definitely canceled. But maybe, just maybe, that wasn't such a bad thing after all.